Hello, folks, and welcome back to talking about the Silmarillion here on Earworms. Today we're doing the chapter entitled Of the Coming of the Elves and the Captivity of Melkor. So basically, this is something that's been foreshadowed in our reading thus far. The coming of the elves, the planned firstborn of Eru, and they're about to they're about to come about finally properly. So yes, without further ado, though, I am going to introduce some of our guests here. We have a number of them today, so it'll be a delightful one. Let's see, what are we going to do? I think we're going to start with this guy. First time on Earworms. In fact, he's so first time, I don't really have an intro video for him, which means we play the standard. Then I shall. Jesus Christ! Please welcome this bovine known as Eraserhead. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right, man. How you doing? How are you doing?
I guess I caught you off guard there.
Hey, man, there's nothing wrong with the standards. I'll say that.
Yes. Well, we're going to keep the show going here. We have this lady, my good lady wife, Liza Sahido of the Psyche Electroacoustic Opera Company. Hello, lady. How are you?
Doing all right. One Tolkien stew coming right up, says Gavin Unit.
Yeah, Gavin, yeah.
Gavin, you're crazy.
The Holy Grail. It is it's right up there with the Silmarillion as far as frequently referenced works of art.
Ay.
Now, I'm going to have to see here before I introduce. No, I'm going to introduce the person I know for sure is here. But other person who stepped away for a bit, you could type in the private chat to let me know that you're back, and then I'll bring you up. Okay, so here we go. We wouldn't be here without our great. She doesn't want to be called a scholar, but we'll just say our Tolkien genius, Anna Nielsen.
I am no man.
Hello, Anna.
Good morning, good afternoon, evening, wherever you guys are. I guess this makes me the author of the stew. I'm really sorry.
Gavin is obsessed with a few quotes from the Holy Grail. One of them is, "One rabbit stew coming right up."
He derails our streams.
Well, it's funny how the Two Towers film has an infamous stew as well. Huh.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's cool. Yeah, the wealth of Tolkien references is quite extensive. Does anybody know if our lady Jill is ready
Looks like
to join
she's here. Looks like you can pull her in.
All right. So we have one Jill stew coming right up.
No.
Oh, I just need to find the right intro video here. I mean, what the hell? There it is.
Somehow I feel comfortable here.
Hello, Jill. We're happy you're feeling comfortable.
I am. Hi, everybody. Very comfortable here. I just so excited to learn more about the background lore of the elves today.
Yeah,
Sam
we're looking
would
forward
really
to
love
that.
it.
Yeah,
We have a bit of a chunky one today. We've got the awakening of the elves. We've got their sundering. We'll see what we can get through.
Oh, yeah. I have like 5 or 6 charts on the Sundering.
And Melkor continues to be a jerk.
Yeah.
But at least for a little while, they put him on ice. But anyway,
in the Phantom Room? Phantom
yeah,
Zone,
I think,
or whatever.
I wanted to say to any of the YouTube bots out there that try to detect human beings that I am real, my cell phone is not syncing with my computer today, so for some reason I can't come on camera. So I'm just an avatar, but I'm basically sparing our audience the look of my face. They normally get that, but today they get a break from it, so... Good to see Gavin Unit in the chat, an ardent party, also a knowledgeable Tolkien lover, and an archer by the name of Colin is here. He joins us Sunday nights, Wednesday nights. A great lover of all things fantasy and sci-fi. So, I have with us today some imagery to help us along. This chapter starts with just a brief blurb about Angband and Autumno. Basically, Autumno is the realm, not a realm, I guess it's in the north. It's the hideout for Melkor himself. And down there, he's got some Belrogs and stuff, all sorts of shadow beings and evilness. And then there's like another hangout, like his assistant Sauron, the Maiar, has his own hangout called Angband. So Autumno and Angband are both in the north there, and Tolkien kind of reviews that for us so that we have that set up, because that's about to come into play in this chapter.
I'm starting to feel like I need maps.
They're out there.
You don't need it. And there are maps with general locations of where Autumno and Angband are. But yes, Autumno is something that's like deep hidden or deep. It's always translated as deep pit, but it actually means something like low lying. And Angband is iron prison. A lot of people know that Ang means iron in Elvish, in Quendi. And we've learned, courtesy of Amazon, actually, we've learned some lore about the Balrogs that they speak now, and that they are voiced by Simon Pegg, none other than Simon Pegg. Isn't that amazing?
I thought he died on the Grand Tour with our Top Gear guys.
No. These are the ancient days. So Balrog spoke back then.
No, that was just a joke for those who followed Top Gear with the Fab 3 and then Grand Tour. Simon Pegg was a guest one week, and they had this. It wasn't really a guest because they kept killing them off in the intros.
Okay, I guess I could insert
my city one week, my city here in Japan, and they laughed.
Oh, wow.
They laughed and laughed and laughed at the statue that was in front of my station, because it was a statue of Momotaro, and he has a sword handle sticking out, but they thought it looked like something else. They thought it didn't look like a sword handle sticking out from his waist. They thought it looked like something else, and they could not stop laughing at it. And so I think of it every time I see that statue. Anyway.
Yeah, and I can insert a terrible comment about JJ Trek Scotty and his Oompa Loompa sidekick. Played by Simon Pegg, the Scotty guy.
Oh, wow. Well, anyway, so that's how it kind of starts, but then it goes into the Valar basically having a discussion about the coming of the firstborn. Now, they've seen it in the vision before the creation of Arda, and so they know that is Eru's plan, and so they're anticipating it. Now, they know that Melkor is around, and there's some trouble there, but they're, not sure exactly how to deal with it just yet. But they know it's coming, and, well, Varda at least decides, I've already put stars in the sky, but I'm going to put, 7 more. And I think, it's the Valakirke, or the sickle of the Valar. And so I don't think the AI production is going to look exactly right, but just imagine it's sickle-shaped or something. But, so the Valar are anticipating the Elves, the firstborn of Eru, the first life on the planet, and as stewards of the world, they, of course, want to, they want everything to go well, but the thing is, they don't know when exactly they're coming. Anybody want to comment on that? or
What I love about
Oh.
it is that I've always known that stars are important to elves, but this is really highlighting for me why, because this was their first light.
yeah, it was the first
So-
light of the world.
Yeah, I had made a mistake. No, what was it? Like it was a couple months ago we were talking about this where you were like you Lawrence were like I read ahead and I'm pretty sure that I read that Varda, the queen of the stars, was going to make all of the stars, and I was like I thought the stars already existed, and both answers were true, is that a lot of stars had already existed from the forming of Ea, but
Mhm.
a whole bunch of new stars were made. And actually, this is an area where a lot of Tolkien scholars, because there's a whole long list of stars, of new stars that are made at this time and that are set in the sky. And there's a whole lot of Tolkien scholarship on what exactly these stars are, because they're supposed to be analogs with our world, right? So I
Mhm.
went through and like searched for, because a lot of them, some of them are obvious. So like the Valakirke is the sickle of the Valar, and that's Ursa Major. That's our Big Dipper, and that's really
Mm.
clear. But some of them aren't clear. So a lot of the stars that are placed, like Carnil and Leonil, are mentioned, right? And
Mhm.
that's like red star and blue star, and they're actually they're not stars; they're planets as we understand them. So Carnil is
Mm.
Mars, and Lunil is Uranus, and then Ninar, people aren't totally sure, but some people think that it's the planet Neptune, and then Lumbar is mentioned, and Christopher Tolkien thinks his dad might have meant Saturn on that one.
Hmm.
It means home of shadow or something like that. And then Alcarinque, we know for sure that that one is Jupiter. Elemire, the star jewel, is the planet Mercury, and we know that one for sure as well. But then there's a whole bunch of stars mentioned. So Wilwarin, we don't know what constellation that is, but that's another one where Christopher Tolkien suggests it might be Cassiopeia, because it means butterfly, and it kind of looks like a W. Telumendil means sky friend, and again it's really unclear, but some scholars, Christopher Tolkien isn't sure on this, but some scholars think it's Cygnus. Soronume means eagle of the west, so some people are like, oh, it's an eagle, it could be Aquila. Anarima is the sun border. Some people think it's Corona Borealis. And then the one we know for sure is Menel Makar, the heavenly swordsman. We know for sure that that one is Orion. And actually, Tolkien didn't stick with this mythology, but there's a whole early story when he had some of the Ainur having children. Orion was, well, Menel Makil was originally going to be a son of Tulkas, the Ainu who really loves fighting, and or it was a Valar who loves fighting, and
Yep.
or so the Valar was going to be the son of Tulkas, and he eventually changed that. But the whole idea of this warrior with his shining belt remains behind, and of course we recognize that as Orion. I think that's all of the constellations that he mentions. But again, there's a lot of stuff where it's never been made clear, and probably Tolkien had something in mind, but it's not in his notes. And so scholars, people go through his notes, go through his letters, go through, things that Christopher Tolkien wrote down that he remembered his father having said, and then just make their best guess.
Oh yeah. Well, we're used to that from like the music
Nice.
world. Liza and I with musicology and reading like Mozart's letters, Beethoven's letters, and all that to try and learn things about their lives. It was a little easier with Beethoven because even though he lived, he kind of overlapped in with Mozart in his lifespan, but he lived longer and had more of a, I guess you'd say, a middle class station as like an entrepreneur, as opposed to Mozart, who was like a servant largely. So, okay, now I'm really going off topic. So, Julie, you were about to say something, I think.
I was. This is fascinating to me. I've always known that Tolkien kind of thinks of Middle Earth as just our past, but that the sky is exactly the same. That's kind of interesting, and that the stars that were made were actually planets, even better. And of course, the people of Middle Earth don't know the difference between the two, so it makes sense they just call them stars.
Yeah, he was
That's
working
cool.
off of the classical planets, which is why some people aren't sure that Ninar is Neptune, because Neptune wasn't in the classical planets. They stopped at Uranus. But You know, who knows? Because he knew about Neptune at this point.
It was blue.
Yeah.
It is blue still, I think. If they repainted it, we won't know for a few days, I think, because of the time delay. So anyway.
Quick question.
Yeah,
actually.
go ahead.
Anna, your comment in the chat. I thought that Quendi was based off Finnish and Sundering was based off Welsh.
Oh, you're right. So both of them have Celtic influences, but you're right that Sundering has more Welsh in it, and that Quenya is more Finnish. But yeah, the Angharad is like a feminine name. It was just a question that Colin asked, which I thought was a really good one. Angharad is a feminine name that just means like beloved, and I think An is just a prefix. And so I think the split is at An and not at Ang, but there's influences in both because Tolkien loved Celtic languages and he included bits of like Old English isn't Celtic. He included bits of Welsh and then Germanic languages in both of his Elvish languages. And there's people who've gone through their phylogenetic trees based on real world philology, but I'm not an expert in that. But I thought it was a lot of people, I guess, would see the Angband, Angharad connection, and I can sort of see it. But yes, you're absolutely right. The Welsh influence is stronger in Sundering.
And
Gotcha.
Ang is Angainor, which is the name of the chain that the Valar used to kind of chain up Melkor.
Yeah, and
Yes,
Tolkien has a name for everything.
That one, Angainor, has like weird etymology as well because no one's sure what the Ainur means. Some people like it means land of iron. Like we know the Ang is iron, but some people like it could be land of iron or it could be iron oppressor. But yeah, that one, the
Or
Angainor
iron
chain,
of the Ainur.
it's like Enor really.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a weird. No one's quite sure, but it's the older name for it that Tolkien didn't stick with is Angaino, but it's straight from Norse mythology because a lot of people have heard of Gleipnir, which is the chain in Norse mythology that the dwarves forged to bind Fenrir, the wolf, and much like Anginor. It was made of 6 metal. Well, it was made of 6 ingredients. In Tolkien's mythology, it was made of 6 metals, and that's why it had these special qualities. And that's why Rings of Power wouldn't have you believe it, but the elves actually did know what an alloy was. They were pretty used to mixing together metals. But I think in Norse mythology, it was like 6 ingredients that don't exist. It was like the beard of a woman, the breath of a fish, the footsteps of a cat, and stuff. And the dwarves put these together to make this super strong chain, and that's why those things don't exist in the world today. Is like cats originally had footstep sounds and women originally had beards because the dwarves took those to make the chain. We don't have them anymore. And so there's a lot of moments, again, the idea of Ragnarok comes into Tolkien's lore as well, where he borrowed directly from Norse mythology.
Oh, cool beans. Well, we're cruising here.
Oh yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned Rings of Power. Sorry, Colin.
Oh, don't worry.
We don't talk about that here.
No, we do. We need to vent now and then.
Yeah, unfortunately,
it's been
it
on the
exists.
mind because Amazon just keeps reminding us this week, especially, that it's coming in November.
Well, this week especially, man. What are they going to do? A 2-month or that's like a 3-month countdown or something. I don't know. But in any case, the elves come about. And now, of course, like everything else, there's a number of names for them. The Quendi is one of them, mentioned at this point. But they awaken here at, what is that? Cuiviénen, which is by the bay, or is it the bay itself? An inland sea on the east of Middle-earth, I believe. But in any case, that's where they come about, and they've always had an affinity for water, and then also Ulmo, because Ulmo is the Valar that's associated with water, and they love the sound of it. Me too, in fact.
Yeah, I
That
was
was the
about to
first
say,
sound I
man.
ever
Can't
heard.
blame them.
Right?
hmm
Yeah.
What did you say, Jill?
That was the first sound they ever heard was the water. So
Yep.
that makes
It's
sense.
water falling over the rocks.
Oh, yeah, I have some waterfalls coming up, too.
I mean, hey, listen, man. Imagine the first thing you see are the stars, and the first thing you ever hear is, the sound of running water. Start of a pretty good life, I've got to say.
Yeah.
As long as Melkor doesn't do anything silly.
Well,
And it's
unfortunately, yeah. Go ahead, Anna.
it's some of Tolkien's most beautiful and enigmatic writings are talking about starlight and how the elves love it more than all other kinds of light, and how they have their greatest love and their greatest respect for Varda, Queen of the Stars, for having placed the stars and that being the first light that they see in Middle Earth. And they have another name for her. They call her, oh, here it is, Tintale, the Kindler. And I think all of that, when they sing Elbreth Gilthonia later on, those are also names for Varda, and they've got such respect for her, and you can tell this is just Tolkien also loving the stars and loving their beauty,
Mhm.
and his own emotions come through so beautifully in his writing.
Mm-hmm. And then
So
when, yeah,
I'm a bit curious. They kind of gloss over it, but how were Balrogs made? They were kind of like demons that just cozied up to Melkor and turned into.
Yeah, they're Maiar spirits too, right? So they're kind of in the same class, the same category as wizards. They're kind of a step below the Valar, but they're in the. I guess they could be considered to be on the same level in a way as um well as Sauron, who's also a Maiar spirit,
mhm.
but they seem to have greater and lesser power, and they're subordinate. Actually, it's really interesting because a lot of people wonder, like, okay, how did that one Balrog that Gandalf fights, how did it get to Mordor? And it says here, when the Valar go to war against they go to war against I'm sorry, my brain's not working.
They go toward
Melkor.
to stop Melkor.
Yes, against
yeah.
Melkor. Sorry,
Right
it's too
there.
early in the morning here. I've slept too little. So they go to war against Melkor and they rip the roof off of his strongholds. And at the very end, they take all of the roofs off of Autumno and they dig down into the pit. And Melkor is hiding at the very bottom of the lowest pit of Autumno. And they drag him out and they bind him in that chain. But it says that many of his underlings, the spirits, managed to flee into tunnels and chasms and caverns that the Valar didn't know about. And that's probably the means by which that one particular Balrog that the Fellowship encounters eventually found its way into Moria, is the idea that it kind of went in deep tunnels underneath the earth below the roots of the mountains until it eventually ended up in this place and started causing trouble for Durin's people and got the name Durin's Bane. So I think it's just neat that it ties into an episode that people know very, very well from the Fellowship of the Ring. But
Right.
it is probably from this extremely ancient date.
So they were there at the song in the beginning in the Aina Lindale. Basically, that's the thing. The Maiar were there too.
Yes.
Like they were basically Ainur too. And so these Belrogs maybe they were there as their own entities that had an affinity to, I guess, Melkor's corruption of the song. And so when they came to the world, they basically sided with Melkor.
So it
Yeah,
seems, yeah.
during the song, they were the ones that aligned to his themes of music.
So they're part of they were before the creation of the world. But now the reason why this whole thing came about, the Valar wanting to go to Autumno and, grab Melkor and stop him, is because the elves were found by Melkor. I mean, he'd been causing trouble for them already, and in destroying the two lamps and everything. And that's why they had to basically make a fortress, Valinor over there in the ocean. And with the tall mountains and everything, like a fortress, was because of his work. And they were probably worried, we don't know when these firstborn are going to come about. And when they do, Melkor's still wreaking havoc in Middle Earth. And he found them first. And according to the reading, basically he was harassing the elves and any elves that became lost. And I guess we could talk about what lost means, but I don't know if it means just physically separated from the rest of the elves. He basically turned them into orcs. He corrupted them. And that's how the orcs came about. Now, I don't know if lost really means just literally lost, separated, or if it meant like they lost their way. I don't know. Spiritually. But it
I think
seemed,
you're onto something. I hadn't thought of it that way. I thought of it as just like getting physically separated, but I could see it as meaning both because it's also said that Melkor sends forth kind of rumors that the Valar are evil, and he wants the elves to fear, especially the coming of Oromë, who spends a lot of his time in Middle Earth riding around on his horse Nahar, and so some of the elves fear Oromë because they think that he's the terrifying thing that they sometimes the shadow that they see crossing the moon. But of course, then it says that the noblest of the Quendi or of the Quendi of the people who didn't hide themselves, they saw the light of Aman in his face, and their inherent nobility drew themselves to him, and those are the elves who became leaders of elves, leaders of some of the different groups that we are going to encounter later in the chapter when they start to split into kind of different divisions. But I suppose the idea is that there was some sort of weaker-minded, weaker-hearted, more prone to fear elves, and those are the ones who could get ensnared by the lies of Melkor and eventually get physically ensnared by him, where he carries them off. And I guess there's horrible breeding experiments. And thus did Melkor breed the hideous race of the orcs in envy and mockery of the elves.
wow.
But of course, then Tolkien once again points out that Melkor can't create life. He can only
corrupt it.
corrupt it.
Ultimate boogeyman, man. And it's just, it's also important to tell our listeners that the Quendi are the elves. And that they
Yeah, they have multiple names. Like coming up here, you mentioned Oromë. And when Oromë riding Nahar found them, whoops, wrong image. Keep trying. I'll get the right one here. Oh, boy. Those are the orc ones. And here it is. When he found them, he called them Eldar.
Mm-hmm. The Quendi is is the word that they called themselves first of all, and I think it just means beings that speak in
Yes.
the language that they made up for themselves, because eventually they felt uncomfortable. They felt uncomfortable speaking the language of the Ainur, and so the Ainur all learned their language. They learned Quenya and they spoke it to them. And so, yes, the elves awoke in Middle Earth, and there weren't any other beings. They perceived that there was other life, because it says at the very beginning of this chapter, things have been growing in the darkness, especially lots of trees and such. But the Quendi had not encountered other beings like them that seemed to be sentient and to speak.
Yeah, it's a cool differentiation that Tolkien used in the orders of life. I mean, basically being able to speak means a higher ordered brain as we would look at it, but perhaps also a more developed spirit, one that's more capable of understanding right and wrong, and therefore more like
yeah. I always looked at it too in the sense that the ability to speak was a gift. Like Tolkien focuses so much on language that, Ilúvatar giving his children the ability to speak with their voices and to communicate is almost like in part a gift to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the elves are just as afraid, really, of the angels as they are of Melkor, and part of that is the corruption. That he's telling lies, propaganda.
Well, I guess it's a teaching thing. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do appreciate the fact that because this is so long ago, Tolkien doesn't really give us a definite answer. Like he says, Melkor might have sent forth dark riders to scare them, or it could have been rumors, or, maybe a mix of both. You don't know, but there's enough there of there's enough that you can have your fun and you can play with it. Like, there's so much headcanon in the Silmarillion that it's fun. Like, it never feels like he's not giving you an answer to not give you an answer. It's more that you can play with it with your own mind.
Yep.
Yeah, Sauron wasn't even original. He got this idea from Melkor.
One of the little things that Tolkien throws in here about that I love so much is he mentions that the most ancient songs of the elves, of which echoes are remembered still in the west, tell of the shadow shapes that walked in the hills above Cuiviénen, and those shadow shapes are something perhaps of that primal fear that elves had about the things that passed over the moon that scared them, where they weren't sure if it was, Melkor in his spirits abroad, or if it was some fearful thing that turned out to be the Valar. And it's fun to think of those extremely ancient songs and like the very first things that the Quendi come up with themselves being passed down in some form or another. And of course, Tolkien was thinking of Beowulf. He was thinking of all of the fragments of the Poetic Edda and the Prose Edda and all of these, ancient Old English and Old Norse, especially texts that he works with that are passed down as even much further back oral traditions, where eventually a version got written down and you can see little fossils of older oral versions of it still kind of frozen in the text. And he just loved that so much. He had to put it in. And I love that little mention. He didn't need to put it in, but of course he's a philologist and he wanted to.
Fear, I put in the chat, fear is the gateway for darkness. That is the opening for darkness to enter. And after Oromë found the elves, he comes back to Valinor, and Manwë and the rest of the Valar hold council and decide what to do. And they decide, okay, we got to deal with this this Melkor once and for all. And so that's when they decide they're going to go to war with Melkor, but they want to leave the elves out of it as much as they can. So basically they go directly to the north, where Autumno is. And then of course the elves can kind of, they get side effects. They probably hear the earthquakes and maybe in the distance see some fires and stuff, but they're not involved at this point in this first War of the Powers. They're just kind of to the side, but they know stuff's going on, basically. So I have this, this is what I got, the Valar come to Autumno, which I envision, well, it is, a lot of it is underground, and that's how the Balrogs also traveled from there to Moria. So I don't know if anyone want to add anything about this, but the Valar basically decide, okay, we're the stewards of this world, and especially now that there's a firstborn sentient beings, it's time to do something, because otherwise they're just going to be corrupted by Melkor. And so after
he's basically taking over Middle Earth with
I love the notion that like plate tectonics are caused by each of these battles. And this is not the last time this will happen in Middle Earth, but many things are moved around and many bays are formed, and places that like bits of ocean that used to be somewhat narrow become wider just because of all of the destruction and smashing that happens when these great powers wage war with each other. And we don't really get an answer for how that could take place, but later on, entire continents will sink into the sea as a result of battles. So they're really powerful.
Yeah, they're really powerful. They're trying to do a good thing, but it's still having some consequences on the shape of the world.
Yeah, and I've always loved this battle because I feel like it's hard to visualize. Because the Valar are so powerful, Melkor is so powerful, but you have to remember, Melkor doesn't have orcs at this point. He doesn't have dragons. Like, we know that he has Balrogs, but a lot of his other servants, except for Sauron and the Balrogs, are described as being like dark shadows and stuff like that. So there's a lot of room to kind of imagine what that could have been or how that darkness could have manifested, because a lot of the staples of the evil army that we know in Tolkien's world, they haven't come into being yet. So
Yeah,
I
and
don't
at
know.
this point, the
I find that
orcs hate
interesting.
him. They're afraid of him, and they know that he's the cause of their misery. I think that's an interesting idea. They're not very
I like
happy.
the notion that the orcs just kind of always, like, they're born miserable. They can't be anything but miserable. Although Tolkien wrestled with that a little bit, but just the idea that they hate, and they're in the deepest, darkest corners of their hearts, they hate their dark lords completely.
Well, they should, but I guess they should also try to see a therapist. I don't know. Deal with their issues.
Well, the
Yes.
other thing, sorry, really quick. The other thing too with this battle is that it seems like the Valar really underestimate Melkor and how much he's actually been up to, because they battle Melkor, they chain him up, they drag him back to Aman, but they don't do a great job at clearing out the pits of Autumno. They leave plenty of darkness and evil beings. They don't really bother. I'm not saying that they intend to be lazy. I just think that they didn't think about the things that Melkor was up to at the time. But like I said, there were so many things that they left. Sauron is still unaccounted for at the end of this battle. So
well, did they know?
I think that they were so laser focused on Melkor being the issue that they just hadn't thought about all the dark things that he had created to serve him.
Did they know about Angband? That's one thing I'm not sure about.
I'm not
because
sure,
Sauron.
I believe it's possible because I think they say that Melkor, like when the battle begins, it takes place more in the northwest, where I believe is actually closer to Angband than it is Autumno.
Mm-hmm.
It says that they threw down both Autumno and Angband, but nonetheless, the Valar did not discover all the mighty vaults and caverns hidden with deceit far under the fortresses of Angband and Autumno. Many evil things still lingered there. So they were aware of it, but yeah, as Eraserhead says, they didn't really do their due diligence in clearing everything out. And we see often enough that the Valar, they're not all-knowing. They can't foresee some griefs that are going to come. There's one of the big things of this chapter is eventually the council of, do we call the elves to Valinor? And eventually they decide to do it, and it says very tersely that much grief comes from that decision.
Yeah.
But most of the Valar also, with the exception of Oromë and Yavanna, weren't all that focused on Middle-earth and the things in Middle-earth, which is why they didn't find the elves for some time until they awoke. And it was almost by accident that Oromë eventually, well, it's actually Oromë's horse that discovers the elves first, because in his horse Nahar starts neighing and stamping his hooves, and it's not in this chapter, but the hooves, the sparks struck up from Nahar's hooves were the first light besides the light of the stars that was seen in Middle Earth after the elves came into being. And so it really was his horse paying more attention than Oromë was that the elves were even discovered in the first place once they had woken up. And the Valar had waited so long for the elves to come because they knew they would be waking up at some point, and that there would be an order by which all of the children of Ilúvatar that were sleeping, that they would wake at various times, but they didn't have a full knowledge of the song either, and they didn't know the hour that was appointed for them to wake up. And so we see this lack of omniscience in the Valar quite a bit.
Yeah, go ahead, Eraser.
Oh, sorry, man. I was just going to say, earlier in the chapter, I think they do say that Oromë and I believe Yavanna were like two of the only Valar that were actually going into Beleriand in Middle-earth at the time. While the other ones were kind of just staying in Aman. So it makes sense that
and Ulmo, I guess, but he stayed in the ocean. But he didn't.
He's in the ocean.
Yeah.
But he would like send his influence up into the rivers and stuff of Middle Earth, and they were the only ones who really cared a lot about Middle Earth at this point.
Yeah. The other thing too is that I believe he specifically says that Oromë met the elves by chance. And whenever you see chance thrown around in Tolkien's works,
it's Eru.
It's not chance, dude. It's Eru just being like, "Hey, I'm gonna I'm gonna help Gollum. He's gonna slip on a rock and fall now.
Well,
Chance.
he even says, and thus it was that the Valar found at last, as it were by chance, those whom they had so long awaited. And so, of course, it's exactly it. It's not chance. It's all by design. But even the Valar can't see all ends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I like about them. They're angelic, but they don't know everything or see everything. So they get to have this sense of wonder and curiosity and stuff. And so, yeah, I think there's one line, I forget where it is, but it says they can sing and, they can imagine all these things, but actually getting to see it is something different. Of course, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so the Valar are able to capture Melkor, chain him up with the Angband, and they put him in Mandos, that kind of like holding area where, like elves, when they die corporeally, they go there. It's kind of like, I guess you could call it backstage on Arda or something like that. It's kind of like I guess it would be a parallel to Hades. And so he's being held prisoner there. And meanwhile, Sauron escapes capture. And so since they were aware of Angband, I guess he just somehow slipped away. And,
He took the
I don't know if
Balrog
this
tunnel, I
looks like him.
suppose.
It certainly doesn't look like the Rings of Power Sauron, but Sauron changes his look. He doesn't like to look the same all the time. But go ahead, Anna. You would probably say something more profound than me.
No, not at all. Go on.
I'd have nothing to go on with. I mean, we're
Wait.
approaching, I guess, the meat of the thing. So yeah, go ahead, Jill.
Okay, he was brought to the Ring of Doom. What is the Ring of Doom?
That's within the halls of Mandos. I believe that's the place where Mandos sits in council, and so it's kind of like his judgment seat. But I'm not totally sure either. Let me pull up. Yeah, he was the Valar drew Melkor back to Valinor, bound hand and foot and blindfold, and he was brought to the Ring of Doom. I think that's the judgment seat of Mandos, but I'm not entirely sure.
Oh,
Doom
man.
in this case, of course, means it doesn't mean like the very modern sense of doom that we have of like a negative meaning necessarily. Doom just means fate or destiny, and not necessarily an evil one. And it's an old English word, and so it's just where fate or destiny is decided.
Well, that actually answers one of my later questions that you might realize what
Well, thank you there, Colin, for notifying me the banners were covering up the subtitles because of the way the images are put in, I guess. But shout out to Jacob.
So let it be doomed, and like, damn.
So let it be written. So let it be done.
Nice.
Good old Creeping Death from 1984. Metallica Ride the Lightning.
Hell yeah.
So shout out to Jacob Ironside. Thanks for stopping by.
Hey, what's going on, Jacob?
Hey, Jacob.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Jill. I think you were... I don't know if I interrupted or not.
No, you didn't. I was waffling. It was... I'm enjoying learning this stuff.
Yeah, it's deep stuff, but it's hard. You got to read paragraphs like multiple times because they're packed full.
They're dense. It's rich with information.
So he does have possibility for parole, though. This says
after 3 ages.
Yep. One thing I did think was interesting though when all of the Valar are holding their meeting is that out of all of them, Oromë holds the opinion that now that Melkor is chained up and he's not an issue, we shouldn't bother bringing the elves to Valinor. We should kind of let them do what they want to do and be free and kind of stay out of it. Like we got rid of the problem for them. Let's not get involved, which, not to spoil too much of the Silmarillion later, but after a certain point, it's kind of funny that Oromë kind of seems to be one of the only of the Valar getting involved in the story. kind of like once the War of the Jewels kicks off. So I did think
Yeah.
that was kind of interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
Tulkos is always the one that's ready to go, thump himself some Melkor, but yeah, Unmo is definitely one of the more thoughtful. But, they decided, the Valar decided, okay, maybe we should pull these guys over here with us. And, they send Oromë back, and Oromë decides, well, looks like a lot of the elves don't want to go. They just want to live here. But he basically selects 3 representatives of the elves to go back to Valinor, and I guess they got wined and dined in Valinor and really dug the place. So they come back to the elves and make the case about going to Valinor, but it's still one of those things where a lot of the elves didn't want to go. Plus, I mean, ultimately, what then happens is this big, long journey across Middle Earth from the eastern shore to the western shore, because obviously Valinor is in the Western Ocean, and the continent of Middle Earth, basically the elves came about on the eastern shore of the continent, and then they have to go across the whole of Middle Earth to the western continent to eventually go to Valinor. Now, apparently the trip was quick for these 3 representatives. What is it? Finwë, Ingwë, and Elwë.
Elwë. Yep.
Good old John Elwë. That's what I think about every time I hear that name. I think of John Elwë.
I mean, hell, there's an elf named Elmo. So what do you think I think about? And I'm not even going to talk about teleporno. Let's not get into that.
And Ingwë Malmsteen.
I'm known by many names.
So yeah, I don't know. I guess Anna. So that's the deal. I mean, since you know more than just reading this chapter, you seem to have this great memory and remember some of the things that are not yet to come. We haven't gotten to that point in the reading, but nevertheless, they affect this time period, because the way the Silmarillion goes is we've already heard about the coming of the elves. That's been foreshadowed, but now we're in it. And so there's all sorts of places throughout the book where you hear about different perspectives on the same event, or maybe not perspectives, but more information about the different events that happen. So is there any more insight other than, Oromë selecting these 3 representatives? I know eventually they're going to have their own stories, and there's going to be more meaning applied to these characters as time goes on. But I guess, is there a reason why he selected these 3?
Basically, my understanding is that these 3 were the most courageous, and they didn't believe, they saw the light of Amon in his face, and they didn't believe the lies of Melkor, where he was trying to teach the elves to fear the Valar. And so they stepped forward, and they weren't afraid, and they offered to go. And so because of that, they were kind of, I guess the idea is that they were kind of inherently noble, almost preordained to be leaders of the elves. But they were inherently very noble, very brave, and very, perceptive to goodness.
Well, it's good to see that nobility was based on something here. Bravery, or being less susceptible to fear.
But yeah, it says that Oromë just chose from among them ambassadors who should go. They were Ingwë, Finwë, and Elwë, who afterwards were kings. And coming to Valinor, they were filled with awe by the glory and majesty of the Valar, and desired greatly the light and splendor of the trees.
Well, I guess we might as well get to it. The big one, the big subject here that I know for Tolkien readers. For Tolkien readers, this tends to be the hard part. So I basically got some charts here, of which there are many out there. And it's something called the Sundering, because in this journey across Middle Earth from the east to the west, the elves undergo they get divided up into different groups because some don't want to go, some decide we're going to go here, some split up here and there, and here we go. This is one of those charts, and this is called the Sundering. The summoning was basically the Valinor saying, "Okay, the Valar saying, come to Valinor," and of course, Oromë brought 3 representatives. They liked it, and they came back, try to get the rest of the elves to come, and with varying degrees of success. And so then it's called the Sundering because basically the elves got split up. They were basically one big happy group at first, and then in this journey it gets divided up. And there's one easy, solid band there to the left, the Vanar. they did what the Valar asked, and they went.
Mm-hmm.
And who was? I think that was Ingwë's group, right?
Yes, and they're the ones who are beloved of Manwë and Varda, who spend the most of their time with the High King and Queen of the Valar. And I like the note that few among men have spoken with them, that almost none of the Vanyar ever came back to Middle Earth, and so of course mankind would never even have much crossing of paths with them.
Yeah, they even got their own color coding there.
Yeah, because man, Valinor is such a weird place. It's not heaven or anything, but
it's such a weird place. Well, there's a lot of dancing and
it's just a blessed
tree
realm.
lighting. Yeah,
blessed realm. But it's not like. But is it like? Are you still corporeal over there? Are you still?
Well, the Valar themselves can take form, but they don't have to be in a form. So, but those things that are corporeal, like the elves, would be in a corporeal form there.
Yeah,
it seems like such a final
upon themselves. Fana, right? Which is or Fanur is the singular, I think, or no, Fana is the singular and Fanur is the plural, or it's like basically bodies of flesh that they can put on themselves like clothing. But the elves have bodies, which is why again later on people like Feanor's mother, occasionally elven bodies do just give up and then they die.
Wow.
But yes, the elves are corporeal and they have bodies that suffer that can suffer hurt and harm, and so they can be killed, but they don't suffer aging. Although, like the Valar, the elves also feel the weight of Ea, the weight of Arda upon them, the weight of the world, and so as they get older, they become more weary. But I like the note that was mentioned that their beauty in the beginning, their beauty becomes even more the longer the elves spend in Middle Earth and in Valinor, even though their strength diminishes over time.
Yeah, and when I asked that question, I meant when they are in Valinor, and so that is interesting to know. And can you go back to Middle Earth after you've gone to Valinor?
Oh yes, we're there's going to be a lot of problems around that. Yeah.
So I guess what we're seeing here is there was a first division where all the elves, the Quendi, got, some decided to go on the great journey, some didn't. And so the ones I'm going to have, this chart is confusing me even more, so it's not really very helpful.
I'm glad it's up. It's helping me a ton to just remember all of this and keep it straight, because I learned all of this a long time ago and reviewed it just now, but you have to keep it all in mind.
Oh yeah, well here's another one. I have like 5 or 6 of them. Does this one help?
Go back to the last one, please.
Yeah, that's okay. The first one's a little easier to understand. I mean,
are you sure? What about this one?
Oh, good lord. All right. Well, one of the things
that
I think
one's
that's
kind
worth...
of fun. It's a map.
Oh,
yeah, that's true. But one thing I think that's worth mentioning is that the Telari were the biggest of the group of elves. So when it comes to them being split into, different groups from there, it's usually going to be like a subsection of Telari elves just because they were the biggest number. That's why the Vanyar, it's pretty cut and dry with them, and they get up, they go to Valinor. There's nothing really to it. it's really the Telari where things start to get a little complicated, because you get the Falmari, the ones that go to Valinor, I believe, and chill by the water. You get, the Sindar break off from them. The Nandor, I think it's funny, I think the Nandor really love the water. So when they start making their way to Valinor, they actually get to the Anduin River. And they're like, you know what?
South, right?
I'm just going to stay here because this is a big river and I really like it. And it's that simple, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's simple, but there's a lot of groups. So, yeah, what's the original division, I guess, between the Vanyards, cut and dry, but the Noldor and the Telari? I think the Telari wanted to just be by the ocean or something.
They like their boats.
Yeah, that was their original thing, but then they divide up later. The Noldor were just saying, nah, we don't want to go, I think. I don't know, but eventually, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But
So
I think they spend quite a while hanging out at the shores of the Bay of Valar before they eventually cross over.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at the division of the Noldor here. There's a left line, so there's some that actually did the journey and made it, right?
Yeah, so...
And then there's their right one that kind of sneaks over here and jumps into the Telari.
Well, yeah, so Oromë gives us, the three, what will be the three kings of these, elvish tribes or races. And the Noldor and the Telari, off the bat, some of them just did not want to leave Cuiviénen. All of the Vanyar were willing to go. Some of the Noldor and Telari did not want to leave. They just stayed put. They're known as the Avari because they were unwilling to go from the start. So of the Noldor that then did leave for Valinor, I believe almost all of them that actually did leave kind of made it. It's the Telari where things kind of get really, really dicey.
Well, where did these Noldor that stayed? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just saying something silly. When you give elves free will.
Yeah. Well, now if you take this half of the Noldor there and the Telari, I know the Telari loved the ocean and wanted to stay, but eventually some go and then found a river. Where is the original Telari? Did they decide to stay in Cuiviénen?
Yeah, I think some of the Noldor and Telari, the Avari, the unwilling, they were unwilling to make the journey to begin with. So I believe they stayed in the areas at Cuiviénen and the areas surrounding.
So why did they have a distinction between Noldor and Telari? I guess because of the leaders that they were
followed at the time. Yes,
it was their kind of their kin.
Okay.
Because the elves at this point still, like, they had relationships and some of them had children, had sons. It's mentioned that one of the groups, I think it's like Quendi, it was the son Denethor of one of them eventually takes up the journey, the leadership. It was Lenwë and the host of Olwë. The Nandor elves were led off by Lenwë, and then it was his son Denethor, son of Lenwë, who eventually takes them into Beleriand. Anyway, they just keep subdividing, and a lot of it, like the most basic division between the three, seems to almost be along clan lines that the Quendi had among themselves, but it's not totally clear.
I know. I love this because we're all like, well, I read this thing a few times, in fact, but we're not exactly sure.
Yeah.
When I read Elves of the Darkness, I didn't realize there was so many of them.
Well, something that's, I think, so interesting first is, like, because Tolkien has inspired all fantasy, and loads of people love to put elves in their work. And first, the names sort of like Eldar or Elder, that sort of naming shows up in a lot of other people's fantasy. And of course, we have Eldar. Oromë names the Quendi. He names them Eldar, meaning people of the stars. But then that name afterwards only comes to mean the elves who follow him west. And Tolkien actually notes in his notes the similarity between the word Eldar, which is in Quenya, and the word elder is in, like, the elder children of Ilúvatar. And he notes that accidental similarity between the English word elder and the Elvish word Eldar, and he notes that it's entirely like they're unrelated to each other, and it's just, you know, accidental similarity between the two languages. But a lot of people, like Games Workshop and whatnot, borrow that and put that into their own elves. And then another really big notion that a lot of people have is the idea of like light elves and dark elves. And a lot of people are like, the dark elves in my fantasy story are like the cool, edgy ones where they wear like black armor and they're like sexy but goth. And
Yeah.
This, of course, the original division of light elves and dark elves comes from that Mori Quendi division, because there's the notion of the elves that have seen the light of the two trees, the Quendi, and the ones that never made it to Valinor and never saw it. And so many of the elves that remained in Middle Earth don't see the light of the two trees. This is actually something, just as a quick side note, put into the Fellowship of the Ring film that I really liked, is that since Galadriel is she's one of these Quendi who has seen the light of the two trees before they were destroyed. She was there in Amon in those days. They wanted to have her design her highlights be different, and the idea that you could still see the light of the two trees in her eyes. So whenever Kate Blanchett was on camera, they had this whole they had like a Christmas light rig that they had above her so that her highlights would be starry rather than having a single highlight in her eyes. And you see it in all of her close-ups, and she has really close-ups on her eyes. Sometimes you'll see that there's like a whole constellation in her eyes, which is a lighting rig reflecting from above. But they wanted to convey this idea that at this point, Third Age of Middle Earth, there aren't many elves left in Middle Earth who are of this kind of blessed group, right, of Quendi, who have seen the light of the two trees. But since Galadriel is one of these, you know, most noble and high elves who has come back to Middle Earth through reasons we'll get into, she's a little embarrassed, I suppose.
Yeah, but that's coming up. Those who decide to take the journey back.
But the idea is that the dark elves are those who never saw this. And it's actually, Tolkien notes, not in this chapter, but in other notes, that Mori Quendi, in the singular is Mori Quende, later comes to be considered like a slur, a great insult to the Sindar elves. And so whenever they had to refer to the old distinction, in quotes, as Tolkien put it, they used the terms Amanyar and Umanyar, those of Aman and those not of Aman, to make that division if they had to refer to it. But calling someone a Mori Quendi, this actually will come up later in the Silmarillion, calling someone a Mori Quende is like calling them a really deep slur.
Wow. Yeah, because Mori, I guess, would be like referring to the kinslaying, right?
Not at this point. It just means the elves of the darkness, those who haven't seen the light of the two trees. I just think it's so funny that a lot of people, they take the concept of light elves and dark elves and they apply those terms into their own fantasy worlds. You see that in so many, books and games and novels and shows. And yet it comes from this, which is a little bit of a complex idea. Most people have no idea that like the notion of the dark elves comes from the notion of elves who didn't see the light of the two trees, not like elves who are goth and have like dark thoughts in their hearts or something.
I heard.
But okay, so this.
Go ahead, Jill, and then Liza, because I heard her sneak in there a little bit, and we have been missing her this whole time.
Sorry,
so go ahead,
I
Jill.
got it in the chat. No. I was. I just wanted to comment on Anna's what she knows about the Peter Jackson production. I mean, their attention to detail was amazing, Anna. Wow, didn't know they went that deep into it. Amazing.
It's amazing. Like I've always known there's something different about Galadriel, but that's some stellar work, literally.
So you get me started on those films, and I'll talk about them forever because I've tried to study everything there is about those.
Now, Jill did like this diagram before, so I thought I'd put it up there just to see if people either salute the flag or don't.
Well, before I studied this map, I had a question about the two trees. Was there? I guess all the elves didn't get to see it because there's a time limit. I guess.
Because something bad's gonna happen. Spoilers.
It's kind of like the title of the book is coming up.
Yeah, okay. Some people who maybe dawdled a little lost their chance.
Yeah, it says it happens before the sun and the moon show up. So, okay. Interesting.
All right, so I'm looking at this one here, Quendi. Okay, they get divided up the Eldor, and then there's 3 branches, and then the one that goes down, that's the easy. What? Why Avari?
Yeah,
Avari.
those are the like Eraserhead was saying. Those are the ones who it means like those who refuse, the unwilling. Those are the ones who
Okay.
just they stayed around the place where they awoke. They stayed around Cuiviénen, and they
Okay.
didn't. They couldn't stay in Cuiviénen. It's said that the elves can never go back to that place. It's somewhere in the far east and north, and it's not known exactly where it is now, and the shape of the land has changed. It's said that the elves can never go back to the very spot where they woke up,
Oh.
although they still remember it in song. But some of the Avadi stayed
Can never go
around
back to the
there as
Garden
close
of
as they could
Eden.
get. Yes, actually, it is a parallel for the Garden of Eden.
So, okay, so they're easy enough, and then there's the 3 branches that we're aware of, the easiest of which are the Vanyar that split off there. We see them up top. And then the middle one there, coming out of the big arrow, is, okay, I can't see, it's kind of blurry there, but it looks like Faldor.
Emperor Goodwin.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, hey there,
Oh,
good
come
one.
on, Ming.
He's going to
Come
straighten
on.
us out there.
Oh, I'm telling you though, I'm so giddy for season 3 because I'm so excited to
Oh,
see
no.
what the heck they do. I have fun with this.
Yeah, I hope
not in the
Little
way
Platoon
that's
is
intended.
ready.
I'm very excited for random film talks coverage of it as well.
Oh yeah.
And what's the name of the guy that does the impersonations, Liza? He
Oh,
did the
God.
impersonations.
Charles something.
Yes,
Yeah.
Hopkins.
Hopkins.
I
Or
yes,
Hopkins'
I
son,
think his la-
maybe.
Oh, he's the one who
Hopkinson,
does the
one of
Star Wars ones as well.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes. He's brilliant. I love it.
I've got to say though, man, the first time I ever read this chapter, it was one of those moments where like things just start to click for you because like we all know The Hobbit came out first, but it was actually an attempt by Tolkien to write a children's tale outside of all of this lore and mythology that he was creating. And one of the only things that actually links The Hobbit to this world and this lore is the fact that they end up finding swords from Gondolin, which happens to be, a location in the Silmarillion. So that's the big thing that combines these, connects The Hobbit to this mythology.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, though, is that at one point during The Hobbit, they reference the fair elves, the deep elves, and the sea elves across the sea. And at the time, you're not supposed to know what that means. It's just like, oh, there's cool elves somewhere in some faraway land. But in this chapter, they tell you that the Vanyar are the fair elves, the Noldar are the deep elves, and I think the Telari are the sea elves. So it's another one of those connections that when you read The Hobbit for the first time, you're not, when I was 8 years old reading The Hobbit, you're not supposed to know. But then you read this and it all connects, and it's just one of the really cool moments.
It was a children's book. You can't dump this on.
Yeah, no one can start with the Silmarillion, but you dip your toe in with the parts that you see, and then you just want to get deeper and deeper and deeper. But yeah, like Eraserhead says, this is all in Tolkien's mind from the beginning. He finished his first version of The Fall of Gondolin in pencil in a notebook like 2 days before the Battle of the Somme. So as a very young man about to face one of the worst battles of World War I, which was awful, he writes some of the most beautiful passages that eventually end up in the Silmarillion that we're going to talk about later. And so he had this in his mind from the very beginning and was always refining it. And this is his life's work.
Well, the map isn't helping, but you could Google that, Jill. That's how I found it.
Thank you for I like the other map you showed with the river. I you could kind of see the elves are like, okay, we could go west, but hey, look at this nice river. We're just going to settle down right here.
I like how some of them were they were all very intimidated by the Misty Mountains because they're not a natural mountain range either. It's not mentioned in this chapter, but the Misty Mountains, the Hithaglir, because Heath means mist. When you hear in the Fellowship of the Ring, they give to Samwise Gamgee elven rope made of heathline, which means mist thread because it's such fine rope. But Hithaglir is the Misty Mountains, and they are artificial mountains that were actually made by Melkor. He raised these mountains to hinder the riding of Oromë across Middle Earth, because Melkor hated that Oromë would come and hunt, evil beasts and creatures in Middle Earth. So he built the Misty Mountains to get in Oromë's way, and they became a real barrier for some of the elves, which is why some of the Sylvan elves, when they saw the Misty Mountains, they were like Eraserhead said, they were like, we kind of like the river, let's go south. Let's not cross those.
Yeah. And the Sindar, they're basically a branch of the Noldor, right? I believe. Yeah, I'm looking for them here.
I believe they're a branch of the Telari.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah. But they are woodland elves.
Yes.
Yeah. So, the Telari were by the sea, and then...
Yeah, so it says here, sorry, on your chart, Sindar elves, because Sin means gray. And so the Sindar elves are the gray elves. And I think the name comes from, let me go back to it. One of their leaders, I think it was Elwë, his name was Singolo, like Elwë Greymantle was his name. And so I think their name comes from Elwë and Olwë. And as Eraserhead says, it was the Sea Elves had the greatest numbers, so they actually had two leaders, and they were Elwë and Olwë, his brother. Because he was Elwë, surnamed Singolo Greymantle, they came to be called the Grey Elves.
Okay.
Melkor created the Misty Mountains in homage to Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, exactly.
Goodwin just drops things in chat that just absolutely flashbang you sometimes. Oh my gosh.
Misty Mountain Hop. I love that song.
Oh yeah.
Where's the River Gellion?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's on this one. These aren't exactly the way I did these. I brought them in as overlays, so they're covering us up. I don't think that hurts, because then you have a better chance of being able to read it.
So the River Gellion, if you're looking at a map of Beleriand, I believe is more towards the east, the eastern side of Beleriand.
Mm-hmm.
You won't find it on most maps of Middle Earth because it no longer exists.
Okay. So
like
it's
Jill,
just really far east. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's on the eastern side of Beleriand.
So,
if you have your Silmarillion copy, there should be a map in the back.
Oh,
okay.
Yep.
So it's this War of the Powers, this initial war against Melkor. That's what kind of changed the land, and so there's no longer a Cuiviénen, really. It all just kind of got like mangled and mashed up, and the continents changed a bit. So I guess that's where a lot of these places are lost now.
Yeah.
Or at least were transformed.
Oh my gosh, I've never opened this map before.
I mean, I'm showing it on camera, but it's full screen.
So we can do that.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't be able to see super well. I just have my book up, but yes.
Well, that's all right. It may be better than just showing that.
But of course, it's reversed. But yeah, here's the west. And so Aman, Valinor is that way. And then the rest of Middle Earth is down around here. But this is just the continent of Beleriand, which will get destroyed in the War of Wrath and sink into the sea. And then this is the River Gellion on the east side, and it's got some tributaries coming off of it. And this is where they just hung out for a while before eventually continuing onwards. Some of the Telari.
Or you?
Yeah, it's a great map. I'm looking at mine too. It's really good.
Yeah, well, maybe I should try and find it here. Is it online somewhere?
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Oh,
Look for the one from the colored edition. It's really pretty.
Okay, I'll do
Lawrence, if you ever get a physical copy, I mean, there's genealogies and things in the back too. This is a very comprehensive appendix.
Well, I prefer electronic copies so I can zoom in with my
that's
vision.
right, yeah.
The Silmarillion map. How about that?
Uh,
Da,
illustrated by
da, da.
Ted.
All right, and there's a bunch of them, of course. Silmarillion map? Question mark. Guide to the Silmarillion of. Yeah, this looks like it.
Mine folds
Valerian.
out, and so now I'm having trouble folding it back.
All right. So, anybody have something they like to bring up at this point? I don't know. I mean, if folks are out there reading the Silmarillion and are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, hopefully we can help a bit. But you're not alone. It is something that it's a gift that keeps on giving, shall we say? Because you'll
Man.
still wonder things.
For me, it's one of those books you really just got to take a chapter at a time. Like, don't be afraid to reread a chapter or to not move on, until you have a solid grasp of what you've actually read. Because there's so many names. I know it's hard for people sometimes, but take your time with it. I think a lot of other authors, like, people gauge how good their books are by how quickly you can read them. Like, this book is so engaging, I read it in 2 days. I feel like Tolkien is the opposite. Like, there's this weird beauty in taking your time when reading Tolkien's novels. So just don't rush. There's a lot of information. There's no need to rush. It's cool, man. Just go with the flow.
Yeah. Yeah, the Silmarillion's way cooler than I thought. I always thought, I don't need to read that. That's just, just the Lord of the Rings Bible. It's fine.
Lord of the Rings Bible.
No, I've learned so much.
Yeah, that's what it is. I'm looking here. I'm still trying to find. Okay, there we go. There's something. All right. I guess I'm going to be working on this. You guys can, keep our conversation going, because unfortunately the one that I downloaded, StreamYard doesn't bring in WebP files.
Yeah, you'd have to convert that.
Yeah, you'd need it to be a PNG or something.
I don't know if we brought it up, but this whole war for the sake of the elves. The elves really had nothing to do with it, but it was fought on their behalf and for their safety. And for that reason, after this battle, Melkor despises and hates the elves more than he even did before. And now he's locked up for 3 ages, just, stewing on that thought.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure he's going to come out of prison, all the better and completely rehabilitated.
I'm sure he'll be reformed.
Yep.
At the predestined battle at the end of time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a question I had earlier that I didn't get to ask about the stars that were. It said something about the last battle at the end of days and that they forebode these things.
So in Arda, there is this prophecy of the Dagor Dagorath, like the battle of battles, the end of the world. It's basically Tolkien's Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more of this thing that will happen and not like a thing that has happened in Arda, because, well, if it had happened, the world would be over and there'd be no one to document it. So it's more of this, this prophecy of something that will happen. And it's mentioned a couple times, I think, throughout the Silmarillion. You get a couple references to it, even in, I believe, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. But there's really no way to talk about it because it does spoil some other stories we haven't got to yet in the Silmarillion. So just know that it's like an end of days prophecy, into Ragnarok.
I might have already spoiled some of it on earlier streams.
I think I'm starting to remember.
There will be a second music of the Ainur at the end of it that will heal all of the hurts done to Middle-earth, and that all of the children of Eru Ilúvatar will be able to participate in the second music, and they'll all be able to join in repairing the hurts that have been done to the world, and that the mountains of Valinor will be cast down, and that light will go forward. The light of Aman will go forward to all of Middle-earth.
Oh, yeah, like
yes.
That's all stuff that's kind of in the prophecy or what is supposed to happen after the battle. So I don't even look at that as a spoiler. It's just during that battle as it's prophesized.
Oh, yes.
There are certain characters from certain stories that are supposed to come back. Like, like I said, you can't really get into certain events.
Certain people face certain others.
Yes, exactly. So we could talk about it, a couple streams from now.
Oh yeah, but
yeah,
there'll be a
Jill,
bunch.
you brought up the notion of doom, and so it was one of the things is that Varda, Queen of the Stars, sets the sickle of Valakirke, the Big Dipper, essentially. She sets it in the north, the crown of 7 mighty stars to swing as a sign of doom, meaning a sign of destiny. It's a challenge against Melkor, and it's a sign of his fate in the last days, that he will be defeated, he will be thrown down. Something I think is really interesting is that the Valakirke is one of the names of that constellation, but Tolkien, of course, because he has a lot of names for other things, he provided for the Valakirke. I wrote them down because I thought they're so interesting. It has he talks about how to men, so especially the men of Rohan, they call it the Burning Briar, and the hobbits, they call it the Wain. A Wain, Wain, is like a 2-wheeled farm cart, and so it's supposed to look like and that's the name by which this constellation is actually known in The Hobbit, if you read it. And the hobbits also call it the Plough. And so he just provides a whole bunch of different names of all of these different peoples for the same thing. And of course, for the hobbits, he's got the Middle English words for both Wain and Plough that was really the word that they call it. And it's just such classic Tolkien to have a whole bunch of names for all of his stars. I forgot there's one other star I forgot to mention because he put it at the very, very end, but it was Halloween, ice blue, is probably Sirius, the dog star. And so that's one of the other ones, because he has a beautiful line about how the blue fire of Halloween flickered in the midst above the border of the world. And it's thought to be Sirius, but we're not totally sure.
Huh. Well, I did find that video you mentioned last time. I thought now is as good a time as any to bring that in. Is everybody seeing the video on screen, or I'm looking at my YouTube.
We're just seeing the map.
Yeah,
You've got
that's
a really
what
nice
I'm
one.
thinking. Let's do this.
Well, really quickly, Colin is asking in the chat, is that Minas Tirith just northwest of Gondolin? And yes, but no, it's actually a different Minas Tirith. It's not. It's not the Minas Tirith.
That's all we need is 2 of them.
Yes.
Oh, great!
Wow.
Now there are 2 of them.
Well,
but
Minas
yes,
Tirith just means the Tower of Guard in Sundering.
Yep.
They're looking for places that you know.
And to make it even worse, the Minas Tirith that everyone knows was not originally named Minas Tirith. It was called Minas Arnor. In its OG days.
Right.
Minas Morgul was called Minas Ithil, and then they both had their names changed.
Oh boy.
The tower formerly known as Minas Tirith.
Well, here we go. Here's our video. It should not be said that that Tolkien was without a sense of humor. So this is still image, but at least we have the audio.
This
is amazing.
All right, here we go.
I have here a letter was written to me by a fellow who's very, very fond of the Lord of the Rings, and he asked me in the letter why they didn't just fly the eagles into Mordor, and I told him I get this same question. The people run into me at the pub and ask why didn't they just fly the eagles to Mordor? It would have made the quest a whole lot easier. And I told him the same thing that I'm telling you right now. Shut up.
I love that clip. It's wonderful.
You got to have a story.
But now I'm not thinking, why didn't they use the eagles? Now I'm wondering, why didn't the gods interfere with Sauron the way they did with
Well,
Melkor?
the eagles come when the eagles come.
Colin just said what I was about to say. The anti-eagle aircraft guns.
Jill,
Oh,
I think
boy.
that that question is like, why didn't Eru interfere with all this craziness happening with Middle Earth and Melkor and then with Sauron and stuff? And I think this is a reflection of Tolkien battling with his own faith. He was a devout Catholic, but of course, even a devout Catholic has questions for God. And I think all of those questions manifest themselves in the Silmarillion. And yeah,
Well, he kind of
really,
gave it a bit of an answer. I guess that was his interpretation. And it's basically, well, Eru says, he knows what's going to happen. This is the song. Melkor added discord to it, but this is what it's going to be. And you kind of get the impression that it's like, well, in order for there to be some evolution, you need to have struggle. You need to have strife. In order for the Ainur just hovering there, making music in a place that's non-physical, in order for there to be any kind of growth or change, they need to go through,
I have a different
like
theory
temperance, almost like going through the cauldron, so to speak, to become more pure.
if you put yourself in the place of Eru Ilúvatar, who knows everything, how are you going to have, I guess, I mean, you're going to be super bored. And the only way that you could experience, as you guys mentioned earlier, wonder is through other beings that that are not omnipotent. So, I mean, he's allowing stories to unfold because he's I mean, how horrible is it to just know everything and be everything and not it? Can you imagine? I cannot imagine. We cannot imagine. I don't know. That's just
That's a good theory. He's allowing the Valar to arrest and take away
yeah.
Melkor, but I guess I'm just gonna have to read the rest of the Silmarillion to find out why they don't do that to Sauron.
Yeah.
Well, I think they missed him. I think it was
Well,
like
oh
an
yeah, this time they just
oversight.
couldn't see him. But I mean, later on when he's doing other stuff, when he's
Well, it's
taking
the
over Middle
classic
Earth.
Christian wrestle between, if all things are known unto God, is everything completely predestined and there is no human free will, or do our choices, and particularly the choices that one makes to follow good and to follow the commandments of God, do they actually matter? Is everyone's fate and outcome already determined and our actions have no impact whatsoever, or does our free will have an impact on it? And Tolkien, being Catholic, would probably fall more on the side of free will having an impact on our choices in life. And so, of course, the notion of all things being known unto an almighty creator would be the core idea of everything. But why would God allow suffering? Why would Eru Ilúvatar even make a song in the first place and allow the discord of Melkor and many hurts and griefs? Some not caused by Melkor at all, some caused by the rebellion of some of the elves that is to come. Why would these things be allowed to happen on Earth? And of course, that has to do with the free will that comes. And he talks about beauty increases by sorrow and wisdom, strength and... Is everything all
Sorry,
right?
you can't turn off those
Yeah, we're
those
getting those
amber alerts. I think the Illuminati is recruiting children for something. Sorry,
So,
I
yeah.
shouldn't have said that. That's a stream killer.
That is pretty dark. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry
But
about
yeah,
that.
Goodwin brings up, perhaps it's not known if Eru Ilúvatar knows the means by which all ends are reached. Perhaps he does. The Valar certainly don't. They only have an incomplete picture of the song and the way that things are to be worked out. But the idea, again, a very Christian idea of our purpose on earth is to grow in wisdom and knowledge that we wouldn't otherwise gain other than by our own experiences, our own mistakes, and our own free will being exercised. It's in this chapter where it's in the moment where Oromë discovers, I think it was on page 49 because I made a note of it because it's really beautiful. Oromë discovers the elves have awoken, and it's to him as if it is by chance. And then it says, Tolkien writes that all those who enter verily into Ea, each in its time, shall be met at unawares as something new and unforetold. Even though they were all foretold, the coming of men, the coming of dwarves, hobbits are the same, is that even though they're all part of the music, each time each of these new races of men will come to Ea, they will be a new source of wonder and change in the world. And then he talks about how the elves, they're very, very beautiful when they wake up, and they're also very strong, and they've got strength and greatness, which decreases over time. But the beauty of the elves is only ever enriched by their sorrow and their wisdom, and that in that beauty of their experience as it grows is part of the purpose of the elves in being upon the earth. It's very Christian.
Mm. Well, here's
And then,
another
of course,
map.
the big journey that they've had is also very mosaic, that they spend a lot of time wandering in the wilderness and going here and there and not being quite sure, and having a goal in mind and following a prophet, I suppose, in Oromë, or in their several leaders, but taking a very long time to get to their promised land.
I love how I didn't realize. Yeah, knowledge is a valuable resource for them, and wow, that makes them. I didn't know that made them stronger. That is really cool.
Well, because it's known in the Lord of the Rings, like the elves and their wisdom is what's talked about, and the elves place a lot of their own value in their wisdom. But of course, when they wake up, it's just the Quendi. They don't have any wisdom. They're like little children that need to be shepherded and guided by the Valar, and that's the big draw why so many of them want to go to Valinor, is they want to learn at the feet of Manwë and Varda and Aule, especially the Noldor, have a real affinity for Aule and for making things. The smiths of Gondolin forging their swords in the first age, and Feanor trying to make works of incredible beauty, which again is going to cause problems later on. But the elves are there to learn in wisdom and to gain skills.
Yeah,
Well,
I never,
folks-
Girls like guys with a
I
lot of
never really
skills.
seen the elves be, vulnerable and innocent like this before. This has been awesome.
Well, I wanted to give everyone a shout out there, including our panelists, that not a shout out, but a heads up that we have about 20 minutes with Anna before she has to go and start her day. So she's
Okay.
in Japan, folks. So she's about to begin her day.
Okay, so then I'll
I've
go
already
for
begun
my
my
last
day.
question that I have here. I have one more question. So since you can go to Valinor and come back, and since Frodo and Sam went there, could they decide to come back at one point or another?
I'm sure
Not that they want
physically.
to, but
Well, actually,
Well, there's also
do we get
different.
into the straight road?
Yeah, I was
Well,
gonna say
it's-
there's kind of different rules at different times too, depending on certain things.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
really it's like a time and age and era sensitive question.
Yeah, I mean, I think in
So,
this
Jill,
case,
So the elves are flat earthers. By the way, Middle Earth. Well, Arda's flat at this point. It's not.
Yeah.
It hasn't. The seas have not yet been bent, and since the elves are flat earthers, they can follow the straight path to Valinor, and they don't have to deal with the earth being round, and that's how they can get there, and how men can't get to Valinor during the Second Age. But of course, in this case, at the end of the Third Age, it was more that there were no more ships that were coming back from Valinor to Middle Earth. And so Frodo and Sam, if they were on those ships being captained by elves who were able to travel the straight path, they could have come back if they'd wanted to. But it was there. Of course, they would die and they would leave the plane of Arda. They weren't like elves. Hobbits are the same as men. Their souls, their
Right.
spirits go to somewhere beyond Ea, beyond the world. And so basically Frodo and then Sam went to live out the rest of their lives in the Blessed Realm. But then when they died, they would die for real, and their spirits would leave and go beyond to that place where the elves don't fully understand.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, who
Perfect,
would
thank
want to
you.
come back,
Yeah, really.
Exactly,
Middle Earth's really
exactly.
nice. A lot of the elves felt a really strong tie to Middle Earth and wanted to go back.
Well,
Some
yeah,
of them
I mean,
were
depends
forced
on
to
the
go back later.
it depends on the period, I guess. Elves are a little different. Hobbits are kind of more associated with men and you know, the unrevealed gift beyond death. So I guess for them it's just like, you know, do you want to spend the last maybe 20 to 40 years of your life back here in Middle Earth where everything kind of like has all those memories that you're not so fond of, you know, like with
That's true.
Frodo. Did you see Frodo's face at the end of The Return of the King? He's not coming back.
So
Nope.
that was also just a really quick note. It was done really really subtly, but it was a deliberate makeup choice. As they were trying to imply at the end of the Return of the King through the production design of the film and the way that Frodo was made up, that there was like he had to leave Middle Earth and that he was ill and he was dying and he wouldn't be able to stay in Middle Earth. So they made Philippa Boyens says later on she thought they did it a little too subtly, but she's like, Frodo, we tried to make him really ill during these points. With the notion of like once he sets foot on that boat and he turns back and looks at the Fellowship one last time, that's where he begins to be healed and he's, you know, youthful and strong and healthy again. But they would actually, because they were filming a lot of their principal photography, like Hobbiton scenes, their bag end scenes within the first 6 weeks of shooting. So they would film like in the morning, like a Fellowship Frodo scene where he's like really energetic and is in that like youthful makeup with the rosy cheeks. And then in the afternoon, they would film like a Return of the King Frodo in bag end where he's got like the really sickly makeup on. And they also tried to have more muted colors, and like the color grading in the third film is of course a little more muted. But in the end, Philippa Boyens was like, I think we were a bit too muted on it. I don't think most of the audience caught it, and I never would have caught it if she hadn't explained it. But yes, the notion was that Frodo was ill, and only being able to go to the blessed land of Valinor would be able to heal him of that hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Emperor Goodwin reminds us that you can just swim to Middle Earth from Valinor.
Oh my god. God damn it.
Well, Eru didn't make sharks yet. So.
Well, there's a Cthulhu monster in the second episode of that, if you recall.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And she read
no
an
one,
adult
no
film,
one
but
recalls the first
But
season.
nothing's gonna,
But
she
you
has
know,
a tempest within her.
Oh Lord. But going
C
back,
is always right.
oh man. So going back to you know, the Valar and the Elves really quick. And it talks about how, you know, Oromë, like he knew that the Elves were going to come at one point, and upon seeing them was still surprised and full of wonder at how beautiful they were, you know. And there is the, like, on the one hand, yes, the Elves did want to go to Valinor to be with the Valar and to learn under them and to gain knowledge, but it also does say that the Valar wanted the companionship and the fellowship of the Elves. Like, they really did admire them in some way. So it's not really this one-sided thing of, you know, we want to come in and live, you know, in paradise and get knowledge from you. It did kind of go both ways, even if, once again, the Valar are more powerful, and even if it's almost more of like a, you know, a human and their pet situation. But I do find it interesting how, you know, these are beings that helped sing the world into creation, and things that they knew eventually were going to happen still just stop them in their tracks and fill them with wonder.
Well, so you're saying that they knew all along
to fight legends.
That's what we would do.
You've always been here.
I mean, listen, man, Babylon 5 is basically Lord of the Rings in space. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Well,
Come on
in a
now.
way. Yeah. Well, especially with this.
You have always been here.
I'm telling you, man, Lord of the Rings in space.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. And King Arthur.
Now. Next thing you'll be saying is he's not Merlin.
Yes. Awesome.
Well, just so everyone knows, this Sunday it's going to be a little different. We'll be talking various Babylon 5, but the main thread is our mission. Our mission will be to make some Yorkshire pudding this Sunday.
It takes just 15 minutes for our Yorkshire puds to puff themselves up and turn a delicious golden brown.
So it'll be a first on earworms.
To make Yorkshire pudding. Attempt is the word.
So any final questions? Any final questions for Anna? I know this. We should call it Ask Anna.
I think Eraserhead probably knows more than I do on lore.
No.
I don't know. I think you both are up there. So ask Eraserhead and Anna.
Well, actually, you know what? A little unrelated to the Silmarillion, but since you were talking about Frodo going to Valinor and how hobbits are offshoots of men and mortal as well, I can't remember if it's in the Silmarillion or if it's somewhere else, but Tolkien does say that when men go to Valinor, like, it actually takes life away from them. Like, they age quicker, they die quicker. Like, basically the land isn't, it's not that going to the land makes you undying. It's that the Valar and the elves in Valinor are undying. So when men go there, it doesn't give them longer life. It actually kind of drains their life. So I'm curious, like, I've never been sure, and I don't know if Tolkien's ever answered it, but does that same rule apply to hobbits because they are mortals and an offshoot of men? Like, when Frodo is sick and dying and goes to Valinor, I don't really imagine it as if it's like Bilbo going to Rivendell where he gets to spend, 20 plus years there. I imagine if that rule applies to hobbits as well as men, he would have found peace, but I imagine he would have kind of faded pretty quickly. Like, I know this like upsets a lot of people, but I imagine that by the time Sam actually gets to Valinor, Frodo's already gone.
He might be, because the swift sunrise of Valinor is supposed to be almost the time passing more quickly for those who feel the ravages of time. And I don't think it's ever laid out, but yes, it may well be the case. But Sam goes to Valinor after, which is his right to do as having been a ring bearer even for a small time. He does it after having had 13 kids and being mayor of Hobbiton 7 times, yes, and doing all of the things that he needed to do in life. And then I think it was after Rosie had died as well. Is that he then chooses to go. So for Sam at least, it was almost like, now is my moment to die, and before I die, I will go and see with my own eyes, the undying lands of the elves. And then Gimli, that's true. Gimli gets to go as well.
Well, Frodo warned him.
Look! Jesus Christ! I warned you.
Well, so Valinor is more of maybe like a hospice. You can, but
well,
I love how we went from Valinor is paradise to Valinor is hospice.
Well, that's also Rivendell, though, right? Because it's a very restful. I'm rereading The Fellowship of the Ring right now, and I'm in Rivendell, and Bilbo's just having a very restful time. And sorry, never mind. I won't bring up Rings of Power. I saw their tweet about like there's been a 5-year time jump, and in that time, Elrond has built Rivendell. I'm like, in 5 years.
Okay.
I've got to step away from
Barad-dûr has been built in 5 years.
Undetermined amount of time. I'll be back if I can.
Okay. So
the
it's
nature
our
of
last
Valinor
call.
is very, very interesting, and I think is a lot of fun to explore. But of course, there's just a lot of things where we don't know, and we can't ask the professor. And there's a lot of stuff where, because lots of things we know about Tolkien's Legendarium are from his letters, because people read his books and he was still alive, and people wrote him letters, and he often answered letters, but there were lots of letters where he wouldn't answer all points that someone wrote to him about, or he wouldn't answer the letters, and so there was some stuff he wanted to
or
keep
he just wrote
vague.
shut up. Mailed it to you.
After a minute of talking.
Well, it does get confusing sometimes too, because, you know, like once you get past the Silmarillion, you have the unfinished tales, the histories of Middle Earth. And after a while, you stop getting new stories, and it's just more and more drafts of the same stories over and over again, sometimes giving you completely different accounts of certain things. So like like sometimes there aren't set answers, and sometimes there's a million answers to the same question, and you can kind of just pick which draft you like best. Like there's certain there's certain events throughout in the Silmarillion where there are alternate drafts in the unfinished tales, and I actually like the drafts in the unfinished tales better than the draft that ends up in the Silmarillion. Like for example, if I were to make Rings of Power and I had like all of, you know, the source material on hand where I could just do whatever I want with it, like I would kind of cherry pick and choose. Like I want to keep the Silmarillion as the main block, but I want to be able to kind of slide things in and out.
Yeah.
You know,
well, they didn't even purchase that, so it's like...
Oh, yeah, well, that's...
Yeah.
Listen,
but
anyway, that's a different story.
It wasn't sincere effort to begin with, I guess.
But yeah, on the note of like the greatest of elven smiths being taught what alloys were, the notion of Angainor, the chain that was used to bind Melkor, being made of 6 different metals, that actually is not from the final version that we get in the Silmarillion. That's from the Book of Lost Tales, where Tolkien writes about a special metal called tikal, which is it's an acronym. It's the first 6 letters in Quenya of the 6 metals that he used. It was like copper, silver, gold, tin, iron, and something else. The acronym doesn't help because it's not in English. Lead, I think it's those 6 metals together made an alloy of a chain that would shine red sometimes and shine green sometimes, and that was this extremely strong metal. And even then, after it was made, because it was Aule who made this chain. Aule only had a little bit of tikal, and so he had to use normal, very pure iron, and then put just a little bit of this tikal into each link of the chain to make it strong. And with that, it was strong enough to be able to bind Melkor. And this detail is all from Book of Lost Tales and is not actually in the finished version, although you can tell it was bouncing around in Tolkien's head, and it doesn't contradict anything really that's in here. And so it's the sort of thing where you could kind of draw on these alternate versions of the tales, as Eraserhead says, and incorporate what you want, because it's all the brainchild of Tolkien.
Well, Colin's asking, is Mithril from Tolkien? And it's like, I believe so.
It doesn't seem to have been made by a Balrog getting struck by lightning, fighting. I don't even remember what it was. And yet the life force of the elves is not tied to Mithril.
But I think he was just asking if it was a Tolkien creation, I believe so.
No, it isn't from Amazon.
It's not
Colin,
from Amazon.
No.
and also, like, Ithildin, the star silver that was used to make the doors of Moria, was also a creation of Celebrimbor. And they were like, oh, crap, we're killing Celebrimbor next episode. So we have to, like, have him make it really quick. So they had to make it between episodes. And so, like, they just start the episode that Celebrimbor dies, and he's just like, look, I'm just, like, in my spare time, I just made this Ithildin. And
well, I don't watch Rings of Power without Little Platoon. It's like, if it isn't his commentary, I'm not doing it. But you get enough, you certainly get a wealth of knowledge from it. But yeah, Celeborn wasn't even there, or did they bring him later?
Apparently, he's going to show up in this season. Apparently, I don't know.
Lord Teleporno himself.
I wouldn't be surprised if, like, they give us scenes with him, though, and then it's just like, these are flashbacks, or like it's just a dream inside Galadriel's head,
or it was Sauron all along taking on the guise of Celeborn and pretending to be Galadriel's husband. Because this season as well, in the final episode, Sauron has to stand before Galadriel and be like, "Will you be my queen?" And she'll be like, "Oh, I'm not sure. You're really hot." they've done that twice in a row, so maybe they'll do it this season as well. Where
They'll make Celeborn into
marry me and we'll rule Middle Earth, and she's like, oh, I don't know.
They'll make Celeborn into a cheating, abusive husband or something.
Well, now wait till you find out that
Sacrilege.
Celebrion.
Oh my gosh.
Wait till you find out that Celebrion is actually the daughter of Galadriel and Sauron,
who
not
marries
Celeborn.
Elrond and is the mother of Arwen. Is she born already? We don't.
Anyway, it doesn't matter because that's not Tolkien. That's
All right. Yeah, no, it's
slop.
not. You can't think of it in any relation to this. It's.
And
I've said it before. I know one of the two writers of Rings of Power. I know Patrick. Well, I know J.D. Payne because I know his family. And I went to school with his younger siblings, and so I've been able. Anyway, it's been disappointing.
Well, you can always just rest assured.
I swear to you, it does not mean a thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, any excuse to play a video clip.
Hey, sometimes you just got to do the hokey pokey, baby.
I need that
But
one.
we've gotten such stellar memes, such great lines from the dialogue. Bodie floaty rocky sinky. I love it.
And I don't.
Oh my god.
I'm not sure if Jill is back yet, but I really can't wait for us to get a couple chapters deeper because I need to know her take on the whole, did Feanor do nothing wrong debate, which to me is just a wild debate to begin with. I don't know why it exists, but
Me neither. Absolutely, he did wrong. But I think it's for the memes, but there's a contrarian group on social media.
Well, he paid for it.
Yeah.
Well, so did everyone else too.
But Feanor's a fascinating guy. At least I love how passionate he is, and in a way it's like he was not foreordained to do all of this stuff, but he was born to be full of a hunger to create more wonderful and beautiful things than anyone ever had before. He wanted to be the very best, and it causes a lot of grief, but also is part of the song.
Oh yeah, like he's
the
an
Born to
incredible
Be Wild
with
part of the
Melkor.
song.
Yeah, he's an incredible character. I just don't know how people could sit here and say, he did nothing wrong.
Sorry, good one with the flat pack Numenorian horses.
Oh no.
Well, how else do you get him on a boat?
Like it's, I feel the same way about, not to get ahead of anything, but I feel the same way about Turin. He's an incredible character, but he's done some wrong. There's a lot of gray there where you can like him, but you can't say he's perfect.
Well,
I wonder why Tolkien decided to make his most talented characters kind of evil. Like Melkor was the most powerful of the angelic beings. I guess the word.
Lucifer was an archangel.
And then Feanor, and then I guess it's referencing that. Yeah.
Judas was Jesus' closest disciple. I mean, it's always the number 2.
I mean, I've always looked at it in terms of Tolkien kind of hinting at the fact that, God only really has the power to create, and anything other than that is a sub-creation within his own world. And the desire to create can often lead to, evil things, even if not intended, just because they're being created from someone that isn't, pure as God. You see it with Melkor, who desired the flame imperishable for himself, who wanted to create certain things of his own. You see it with Aule, with the dwarves. It was the desire to create. And then you see it with the Noldor, who learn under Aule, and it's their desire to create that they learn from him that leads to a lot of bad stuff. It's just one of those things where it seems like he's getting at unless it was created by God, by Iluvatar, if it was created by anyone else, there's just an inevitability for it to turn to evil eventually.
Yeah, that's how the demiurge came about, according to the Gnostics, because Sophia created without her consort.
Yeah.
And of course, an overwhelming theme. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. When is too much creativity or too much wanting to be creative? When do you cross the line into being, presumptuous? And so you have these like Feanor, super talented guy. Why does he have this impulse to be so selfish? And I don't know. Just putting that out there. Go ahead, Anna. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, there's also the theme in Tolkien of, small things that are seen as unimportant, maybe the undoing of very great powers, both, the undoing of good powers may be undone by some small thing that they didn't realize was going on, or in the entire case of the Lord of the Rings, again, since I just finished reading the Council of Elrond in French, since... Yeah, I know. This is the worst
Just
way
look
to read
for
the
any
Council.
challenge that you can bring on yourself, I guess.
I have it over there, and it's not a good translation. I am not a huge fan of this translation in French of the Lord of the Rings. I have a lot of complaints about it, but I won't get into that. But anyway, the whole point of the Council of Elrond is what it's eventually decided is that it is the responsibility of Frodo to take the ring, and that this is actually something that is intended, that is ordained by the powers of Middle Earth, that it's in a way part of the plan, part of the song. And yet, because Frodo is so small and seemingly so insignificant, a lot of people have doubts of his success, but that in a way gives him the tools to be successful against the Dark Lord Sauron, in a way that someone like Glorfindel or Tom Bombadil or Elrond or some very powerful being taking the ring to be destroyed would not be successful. And of course, that's the theme of the entire Lord of the Rings, is that the simple and often the most overlooked of the peoples of Middle Earth. The hobbits almost don't even, they're kind of a subcategory of men, but are often ignored even by men. And that Gandalf has spent much of his time spent with the hobbits and learning their lore and understanding them. And he's even looked down on by his wizard peers for spending so much time with such a silly and meaningless race of people. And of course, they have more to do with the overall fate of Middle Earth, and they have depths and nobility to them. And not just Frodo, Sam, Pippin, and Merry as well have incredible arcs and levels of courage that are not seen in most men, and yet they've always been overlooked and disparaged all of this time.
Well, I hate to be a party pooper, but Anna, I know you need to start your day, and I don't want to make you late.
Yeah, sorry. No, I'm the one yapping for far too long. It's
No
already
worries.
7 a.m. here.
I do have to head out too. Sorry.
All right. So we're going to call it a day, and this is the time slot that we have for our Tolkien time. I don't know when next we'll meet. We'll do a little discussion on that. Maybe it'll be next week. Maybe it'll be 2 weeks. We'll see. But this is the time slot. We want to thank our audience and the chat for being with us. Thanks, Jay and Jacob. Colin's been there. Saw Ardent and Gavin. I warned you, Gavin. And so, I enjoyed myself today.
Me with death.
What? What about death? All right. Well, we're going to call it a day.
To longbow me.
Oh, no. Yeah, Gavin's like that. Oh, no, that's Colin. Oh, okay. Bad Colin. All right, folks. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you when next we meet. Take care.
Yeah, thanks as always.